There is a paradox on the spiritual path. Many men, after a glimpse of awakening, expect life to suddenly burst with energy, clarity, and purpose. But instead, they feel empty, unmotivated, disconnected from the very things they once chased. This is not failure. This is transformation. Carl Jung reminds us that the journey of awakening is not about escaping life, but about descending into its deepest truth. And the absence of motivation is not the end. It is the initiation into a new way of being. 1. The collapse of the old self. Before awakening, your identity is built on ambition, desire, and the chase for success. You are motivated by recognition, wealth, attraction, and status. In that chase, you feel alive. But the moment you awaken, those old motivations lose their flavor. The job that once excited you now feels empty. The relationships that once defined you now feel shallow. The games of society feel meaningless. Jung would say, this is the collapse of the persona, the mask you wore to survive in the world. When the mask crumbles, the motivation tied to it crumbles as well. This emptiness is not a mistake, it is the doorway. 2. The death before rebirth. Every awakening is a death. The death of the ego, the death of old desires, the death of the false self. And like every death, there is grief. You grieve your old identity. You grieve your old dreams. You grieve the life that once seemed so certain. This grief shows up as a loss of motivation. Move forward when everything ahead seems hollow. Continue running when the finish line has disappeared. Jung teaches that this stage is essential. It is the dark night of the soul. It is the silence before the new life emerges. It is the stillness of winter before spring blooms again. 3. Motivation before awakening versus after awakening. There is a fundamental shift that happens. Before awakening, motivation comes from lack. You chase because you feel incomplete. You pursue because you believe happiness lies outside yourself. But after awakening, you realize nothing outside of you can complete you. When this truth dawns, the old fuel no longer works. Greed, lust, envy, pride, these no longer move you. So you feel stuck, as if you have no drive at all. But in truth, the old drive has simply burned out. You are being prepared for a new fire, one that comes from within. 4. The shadow emerges. When the outer fire fades, the inner darkness rises. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the rejected, unacknowledged parts of yourself. And this is why awakening feels heavy. When you are no longer distracted by chasing the world, you finally see the hidden wounds within you. Your fears, your guilt, your shame, your suppressed desires. Many men stop here. They think awakening has made them weak. But Jung would say, this is the true work. To confront the shadow is to reclaim your soul. Until this work is done, no new motivation can take root. 5. Why society cannot understand. Society worships productivity. It tells you that to be valuable, you must always be moving, always producing, always chasing the next goal. So when you lose motivation after awakening, others will see you as lazy, lost, or broken. But they do not understand. The first time, you are no longer hypnotized by the treadmill of meaningless ambition. You are not broken, you are being reforged. You are not empty, you are being purified. You are not lost, you are being redirected. 6. The alchemy of stillness. Motivation after awakening cannot come from the ego. It must come from the soul. The soul speaks slowly. It does not shout, it whispers in silence. This is why you must embrace stillness. Meditation, reflection, solitude. Not as escape, but as alchemy. In the stillness, the soul reshapes your desires. You begin to crave not what is shallow, but what is eternal. Not distraction, but depth. Recognition, but truth. Slowly, a new motivation begins to stir, not to prove, not to chase, but to express the fullness of who you are. 7. The rebirth of true purpose. When the shadow is faced and the silence endured, something miraculous happens. A new fire rises. This fire is not about wealth, but about meaning. Not about power over others, but about mastery of yourself. Not about chasing love, but about becoming love. This is the motivation of the awakened man. He does not move to escape himself, he moves to express himself. He does not seek the world's approval, he acts because truth demands expression. This is purpose, and purpose is stronger than any temporary motivation. 8. Jung's warning. Carl Jung warned that many men who awaken fall into despair because they cling to their old motivations. They try to return to who they once were, but the mask no longer fits. This is why Jung said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." The way forward is not to resist the emptiness, but to walk through it. To allow the old self to fully die so that the true self can be born. If you accept this, the lack of motivation becomes your greatest teacher. It forces you to go inward. It forces you to discover the deeper fire that cannot be extinguished. 9. The warrior of the soul. The man who has endured this death, this silence, this emptiness, he becomes unshakable. He no longer fears failure because he has already died to who he once was. He no longer fears rejection because he no longer depends on approval. He no longer fears loneliness because he has befriended his shadow. This is the warrior of the soul. This is the man who walks with presence, calm, and unbreakable strength. His motivation is not a shallow spark, it is a steady flame that lights the path for others. Final flow. So why do you lose motivation after spiritual awakening? Because you are being stripped of illusions. Because you are being emptied of false desires. Because you are being prepared for a deeper purpose. Carl Jung's wisdom reminds us, the descent is not the end, it is the initiation. The loss of motivation is not weakness, it is the soil in which true strength grows. You are not broken, you are being reborn. Walk through the emptiness. Face the shadow. Embrace the silence. From that silence, a new fire will rise. Not the fire of the ego, but the fire of the soul. When that fire burns, you will no longer need motivation. You will become motivation.